Hello, and thank you for being here. Today's video is not about resentment. It's not meant to reopen old wounds just to deepen the pain. It's meant to offer you a mirror, to see yourself not as the version that was controlled, whose worth was dimmed, but as the strong, awakened, radiant version of yourself that has always existed within you. The journey of loving a narcissist is not an uncommon story. It begins with warm glances, sweet words that feel like honey, but gradually turns into a maze of manipulation, blame, isolation, and exhaustion. And then one day you find yourself wondering, how did I even end up here? But eventually you start noticing the pieces that don't quite fit. You begin to ask questions, you start searching, and that search led you to this video. This video is for you, the one who once loved with all your heart, who lost yourself in a toxic relationship, but who's now stepping into the journey of healing, self-awareness, and self-love. In the next few minutes, you will uncover what the narcissist never anticipated. Your awakening. They never believed you would see through them. They never thought you could thrive without them. But you're here proving them wrong. Watch until the very end, because it's the ending that will help you see the full picture, why everything happened, and how to make sure you never return to that dark place again. And if this video awakens something in you, a memory, a feeling, an epiphany, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone else who's searching for a key to unlock the door to their freedom. Maybe you once thought it was just a bad day, that maybe they were under pressure, going through something difficult, which explained the sudden changes, that all you had to do was love a little harder, be a little more patient, and everything would be okay. You made excuses for them with all the sincerity in your heart, and in doing so, you unknowingly stepped into an unbalanced relationship. One where you gave everything, and in return received only confusion, coldness, and a slow erosion of respect. You gave your time, your money, your energy, your devotion, your compassion, even your dignity, your social connections, and your mental health. Little by little, day by day, you sacrificed yourself to keep a relationship alive that, deep down, left you feeling profoundly empty. It's hard to see it when you're in it, because narcissists don't hide behind love. They hide behind manipulation. They make you believe you're the problem, that you're not enough, not loving enough, not patient enough. And you believe them because you have a heart. But what they never anticipated is that one day you would start asking questions, that you would stop trying to fix yourself to fit into the life of someone who never intended to understand you, that you would begin to realize this was never love. It was depletion. And then you'd begin the process of reclaiming all the pieces of yourself that were stolen. This is the moment your healing journey begins. After all that you gave, what you received wasn't gratitude, but quiet destruction. Narcissists don't come to build with you. They come to take what you have. And when that source of energy runs dry, they leave. The terrifying part? It wasn't an accident. The damage they caused was intentional, driven by a twisted mindset, an empty ego that constantly needs to be fed with emotions, attention, and admiration from others. They don't think like you. They don't feel like you. And they don't look in the mirror of the soul the way you do every time you hurt someone and reflect. They lack true empathy. They lack emotional maturity, the kind you assumed all adults had. They don't change. They don't self-reflect. They don't take accountability. And they will never believe that they are the problem. To a narcissist, every relationship is not a space for sharing or growing together. Each relationship to them is a battleground for emotional supply, a game where they manipulate others' emotions to satisfy the insatiable void within. And when you're no longer a rich source of that supply, they retreat coldly as if you never existed at all. But you are still here, with a tired but beating heart, with a spirit bruised but healing. And in this very moment, you begin to understand something crucial. The narcissist didn't try to break you because you were weak. They did it because you once shined too brightly, and they couldn't handle that light. But now that light is returning, and this time it's not meant to eliminate anyone else. It's here to warm you, to guide you out of the maze of manipulation and into true emotional safety. And then, one day, they leave. No kind goodbye. No turning back. They vanish from your life as if you never existed. As if the days, the months, the years of giving, loving, enduring, crying yourself dry meant absolutely nothing. Because to them, that's the truth. Not because you have no worth, but because in the narcissist's eyes, people are only tools. They came to you because they needed a source of affection, of finances, of admiration, of submission. And when you no longer served as their emotional fuel, They quietly turn their gaze toward the next person. Often, that next person isn't even new. It could be a recycled connection, someone they previously discarded, or simply someone unaware of their true nature, someone who hasn't yet seen, who hasn't yet questioned, who's easy to trust, just like you once were. To them, relationships have no depth. Every person they pursue is just another replaceable piece in their toxic puzzle. Exploit, drain, discard, over and over again. But this time, something is different. You have awakened. You've begun to see the pattern. You no longer sit there blaming yourself for their departure. Instead, you start asking a better question. Why did I stay so long? And the answer doesn't lie within you. It lies in their calculated manipulation. But now, the first light has broken through, and soon it will grow, brighter and stronger, until it reveals the whole truth, until you will never return to your former role, the role of the victim. Narcissists know they wear a mask. They know this better than anyone. Don't be fooled by their confident, charming, or in-control appearance. Inside, they are filled with disorder, fear, and chaos. An inner life trapped beneath layers of personas so deeply stacked, even they no longer recognize who they are. They know that every gentle act is just a performance. They know their outbursts of rage are not to defend themselves, but to control others. They are aware of their manipulation, their lies, their harm, and they still continue, because that's the only way they know how to exist. Deep down, they carry a massive fear. Fear of exposure, fear of abandonment, fear of losing the endless supply that keeps their hollow ego alive. And that's why they never stop to heal. Because to heal, they'd have to face who they truly are. And to them, that's more terrifying than living in lies. Many ask, do they know they're hurting people? The answer is yes, but they justify it. They tell themselves you deserved it, that you were weak, that your pain is your own fault. They choose to escape accountability because to take it on would mean cracking the mask they so desperately cling to. You once did everything you could to save them, but now you understand. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. They don't want healing. They want control. You once believed that when they left, you would fall apart. And truthfully, you did for a while. But what the narcissist never expected was that you wouldn't stay in that darkness. They thought you would crumble, that you would beg, plead, panic, that you would remain trapped in dependence forever. But you didn't. Instead, you started doing the very things that shocked them, confused them, wounded their ego, and finally made them regret. Want the first move. You disappear quietly and proudly. No long drawn-out messages explaining your reasons. No crying, no drama, no need to justify yourself or demand justice. You just disappear, not because you're weak or afraid, but because you've become strong enough to understand this. The most precious things you have are your energy, your peace, and your self-respect. And you're no longer willing to waste a single second more on someone who only knows how to drain every part of you. Your disappearance is not like the way they left you. Sudden, cold, emotionless, like you were just an object with no value left. You didn't withdraw to hurt anyone. You withdrew to protect what's left of you. And that very act becomes the greatest blow to the narcissist ego. A narcissist is never prepared to be left behind because they've always believed they're the one in control. They were convinced you couldn't live without them. They were certain you'd call, text, search for them, maybe even beg to come back. But you didn't. You stayed silent. And in that silence, they began to hear a strange sound. The echo of the emptiness within themselves. They start asking questions. Why isn't he/she reacting? Are they seeing someone else? Do they not love me anymore? Or have they figured something out? Narcissists aren't afraid of your anger. What terrifies them most is your indifference. When you no longer react, you take away the most powerful weapon they had to control you, your emotions. So your silence isn't retreat, it's victory. A quiet victory, no applause, no spotlight, but full of power and self-mastery. That's the moment you stop being a puppet in their psychological play. You become the author of a new script. You choose the ending, and you walk away not in rage, but in awakening. 2. The second move, you don't react to their comeback traps. One of the last weapons a narcissist uses when they sense you slipping away is what's known as hoovering. Like a vacuum, they try to suck you back in using all the tricks that once worked on you. A sudden late-night message, I miss you. A memory photo sent to your inbox. Remember when we were this happy? A cryptic post on social media that screams pain, regret, or heartbreak. Or even an unexpected burst of kindness. They call asking about your parents. They offer vague apologies. They promise to change. They say they wanted a fresh start. You've heard all these things before, probably more than once. In the past, you may have reacted. You softened. You felt sorry. You wondered maybe they really have changed. But this time, you did. This time you knew better. That wasn't love, it was manipulation. It wasn't about wanting you happy. It was about not being able to bear the idea of you being happy without them. So this time you didn't reply. You didn't engage, but you didn't go back. Not because you're cold, but because you're awake. You know that if you leave even the smallest crack open, they'll find a way back in. And the cycle will restart. While in pain, abandonment, you've had enough of that cycle. You deserve a life that's peaceful, meaningful, real. What you might not know is this. When you remain silent, when you don't respond to the Hoover, that's the moment they feel most confused. They thought they had you figured out. So, forgiving, easily swayed. They believed a few familiar tricks would bring you running. But this time they see a different version of you. Stay right, rooted in self-worth. And that terrifies them, not because they love you, but because they've lost control. Because the powerful image they once held in your eyes has finally crumbled. 3, the third move, you return. Radiantly as if you never fell. You're no longer the version of yourself. Sad, confused, and exhausted from holding on to a directionless relationship. You're no longer the one who worried over every message, felt guilty for saying no, or feared abandonment just for being honest about your feelings. Now you care for yourself with a kind of love you've never known before. Not to prove anything to anyone, but because you finally chose you. You begin doing things that were once mocked as pointless, silly, or a waste of time. You go for walks alone and feel peace. You dress well, not to impress anyone, but to honor yourself. You learn, read, meditate, exercise, journal, reconnect with old friends, and open yourself to new connections. Each act like a stitch, mending your soul from within. And the strange thing is, you're not even trying to shine. You're simply living in alignment with your truth. And that's what makes you naturally radiant without needing to show off. Meanwhile, the narcissist watches from afar and begins to feel shaken. The more at peace you are, the more unsettled they become. The more authentic you live, the more fake they feel. The steadier your steps, the more empty and defeated they feel inside. They once believed you would collapse without them. They can't understand how you're now smiling. Truly smiling. After everything they put you through, after discarding you like you had no value, but they forgot one thing. You never needed them to be strong. It was the pain they caused that became the catalyst for your inner rebirth. You don't need to post photos. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything because real radiance doesn't need an audience. It shines through your eyes, in the calmness of your voice, and the grounded confidence in every decision you make. You're living not to be loved, but because you now love yourself completely. And for the narcissist, that is their deepest regret, that they lost the one who once gave everything, and they will never again get to see you fall. Or the fourth move, you should share your story and break the silence they fear most. During your time with the narcissist, you became used to staying silent, and you didn't tell anyone, and you didn't complain. You didn't share your truth because you were taught it was just between the two of you. And if you spoke out, you were labeled dramatic, disloyal, not forgiving. But that silence wasn't a choice. It was an invisible shackle they placed on you so they could keep hurting you without consequence. And then, after beginning to heal, you chose to break that silence, not by exposing them on social media, not by naming or shaming, but by telling your story in your own words, with real emotions and courageous honesty. Maybe you wrote a blog post, maybe you opened up in a support group, maybe you told a loved one who always thought things seemed fine. Maybe you started a video, a podcast, a healing platform, not to blame, but to connect. And that terrifies the narcissist because they survive off your silence. They thrive by appearing good to the outside world because no one knows what happens behind closed doors. They've built perfect public performances, the ideal partner, the funny friend, the charming coworker, the devoted parent, and you, the only one who saw their dark side. Stayed silent for too long. Until now, when you speak up, you do the one thing they fear most. You expose the truth through the light of awareness. You don't need to spill details or name names. You just need to say, I was in a relationship where I lost myself, and here's how I found my way back. That sentence, simple as it is, carries more power than any accusation. And then something miraculous happens. Someone out there hears it, and they recognize themselves in your story. They realize they're not crazy. They're not weak. They never deserved the way they were treated. You're not just healing yourself. You've become a guiding light for others. And for the narcissist, that is the irreversible regret. Not only have they lost their source, they've lost control forever. You see, there's no need for revenge. No need to prove anything. No need to go back just to make them feel what you felt, because the highest form of revenge is always this: healing, growing in silence. The narcissists never imagined you would wake up. They never thought you could live without them. They were certain you'd stay trapped in the same loop: love, pain, forgiveness, more pain. But the truth is, you walked out, and you no longer need to look back. You acted in ways they never saw coming, not with retaliation, but with self-control, not with noise, but with proud silence, not by begging for validation, but by radiating peace and reclaiming your life. Now you live not to please anyone. You say no when needed. You set clear boundaries without guilt. You no longer seek love in the places that once broke you, because you know now the first love you ever needed was the love you give yourself. And if you're still healing, still unsure where to start, remember this: you are not alone. You are walking a path many have walked before, and many have made it through to the other side of the darkness. And you will too. If this video spoke to you, leave a comment. Even just on healing is enough to let someone out there know they are not alone either. And if you want to keep receiving powerful, healing, and self-affirming messages like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, because I'm still here, walking beside you, helping you come home to yourself. Thank you for listening. Now keep walking. Slowly is fine. Just don't look back, because what lies ahead is you, whole, grounded, and free.